today I'm going to be working with this Pinata2Stamp stamp set. It has this adorable pinata. It has a cactus, and then there's this star. There's a face that you can put on this taco if you wanted to. Here, you can add just like a little pom-pom or something. Maybe I'm thinking to the star, you can do that. There's some sentiments. Have a smashing birthday. Hope your day is, and then you can say full of treats, or hope your day is a smash and it's a fiesta. And I'm also going to be working with the corresponding dies as well as these fringe dies. And these dies cut out what looks like this, which is fringe. So kind of look, you can, to me, it looks like a comb, but actually it is the fringe, and there are the pieces of paper separated by each one of those lines. So, and you can cut out a bunch of these in various colors or all the same color and use fringe with your pinatas. And I went ahead and I stamped out my pinata, and I colored it with my Copic markers, and obviously I did that off camera, and I just used some bright colors, blues, reds, orange, greens, and yellows. And when I colored these with my Copic markers, just to give you a little hints of how I did my coloring, I started with the dark at the very top of each layer, and then went to the next darkest color, then the next darkest, until I got to the light. And I did that with each row on this pinata. So the top row always started out with the darker shade, and then it went gradually got lighter. So that's how I colored him up. And then I also cut him out with my shadow die. So I cut him out with the shadow die that corresponds with the Pinata2Stamp stamp set. Okay, so I'm going to create a card, and the card I'm going to create is going to have some fringe on it. It's going to have my pinata on it. And what I'm going to do to start out is I cut out with my, this is just a regular rectangle die, and it's one of the dies from the Stamps of Life, and they're a rectangle die set. And just cut out a piece of the powdered sugar cardstock. And I am going to just look at my pinata just for some, color inspiration here. And what I did is I went ahead and I cut out my fringe in various colors. So let me just scoot this over so you can see all of these colors. Again, they correspond with the same colors in my pinata. So various colors there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to layer the fringe on this base. So this rectangle is going to be my base, and I'm going to work from the top down until all my layers are on there. So I'm going to start with the blue, and I am going to just take my glue and just add some liquid glue just to the top of this fringe. I'm not going to do it to the pieces that are separated, only to the top. And then I'm going to add this to the very top of my cutout rectangle. Okay, so make sure that there's no white showing whatsoever on there. And then of course, make sure that it is centered on this layer. So just by looking at it, it looks like that the white edge of the rectangle is coming right onto the second piece of fringe on each side, okay? So I've got my first one down, and that's glued down. Then I'm gonna take my second color, I'm gonna do the same thing, and I'm just adding glue just to the top part of that. And then I'm going to line this up. So we're just lining it up with the blue one, making sure that there's no white showing. And I'm going to continue with the rest of my colors. Okay, so there is my layer. Look how pretty and colorful that looks. And it's just on the back of a piece of cardstock. Now, if you don't have a rectangle die, you can always just cut out a piece of cardstock. And I'll go ahead and quickly just measure this just so you can see. The fringe is about 3 inches wide. And then to put all of these layers, of course, you don't have to do this many. It's about 4 1/4. Okay, so 3 by 4 1/4. So you can measure a piece of cardstock to put the fringe on. I'm gonna go ahead and stamp out a sentiment. And the sentiment I'm gonna use is, hope your day is a smash. So I'm going to use my blueberry ink, and that sentiment is actually 2 different pieces. So you can start out with hope your day is, and then if you wanted to, whatever you wanted to add to that. So there's the hope your day is. And if you wanted to add full of treats, you can do that. But since this is a pinata, we are going with a smash. And that is going to be in the strawberry ink. Just like that. And I'm just going to trim this down because right now it's too big for the area that I want it to be on my card. So I'm just going to trim this down as much as I can. Next, I'm just going to take a piece of the blueberry cardstock and just layer that right behind it. And I'm just going to trim this just to give it a little edge. All right, so I'm going to start putting this card together, and I'm just going to layer on this sentiment onto the blueberry cardstock. And then I'm going to take my fringe, and I want to back it up against another piece of cardstock, because right now it's just kind of delicate on the sides because the cardstock does not completely cover it. And that was the intention of the cardstock underneath not completely coming to the edge because I didn't want any of that white showing. But now I'm going to take another piece of the powdered sugar cardstock and I'm going to layer this on just like this. And this piece is measured 4.5 by 3 1/4. And I'm just going to take my glue and I'm going to definitely come on the edges here. And I'm gonna add glue all to this back side. I'm not gonna put any at the bottom, just because I don't want it seeping through that red. And I'm going to add this right in the center. And then I have a piece of blueberry cardstock, and this measures 3.5 by 4 3/4. And this piece is going to layer right on top of that. Isn't that pretty? I love all of these colors. Okay, next we're going to have our cute little pinata. And this is gonna actually layer kind of like this. And we're gonna have some twine hanging from this pinata from the back. So I'm gonna get a glue dot. Before I apply my glue dot, I just wanna position this so I see where my sentiment's gonna end up being and where my pinata needs to go, because obviously I don't want it covered up like that. I'm thinking that my sentiment's gonna cover up that white in the corner just so that the blue is showing. And then the pinata will be in the center towards the bottom. So we're gonna add a glue dot on the back side of this underneath the head. So just get your glue dots and just add a glue dot. If you want, you can add a couple. And then just put your twine, and I'm just using white twine because there's already enough colors in this card, so I didn't want to make it any busier. Okay, and the twine is going to come up. Let me move this. Oh. All right, so it's going to come up. Make sure it's in the center. May need to add just one more glue dot just to make sure, because I didn't get one at the very tip, and I want to make sure it does not move from being in the center of where the ears are. Okay, there, and now I can just place it right in the center, and look, see how it's coming up right in the center there? Okay, so now I'm gonna put this where I want it. Okay, and then the string is just gonna be tucked right behind this layer. So I'm just gonna turn this over after I get another glue dot on my tool. And I'm just gonna add a glue dot here just to hold it in place. Okay, just temporarily while I get all this other stuff secure on here. Okay, let me go ahead and cut this twine. That way nothing's hanging. Okay, now I have to get this pinata on this layer. And I'm gonna just hold it down like this, and I'm gonna add some foam to the back of this pinata just to give it some dimension. I suppose I can go ahead and cover up those glue dots now that I have the twine in place. And this is a thinner foam. It's not too thick. You can see how thin it is. It just adds a little bit of dimension to your project. All right, so I went ahead and I removed the adhesive backing, and now I'm just gonna flip this over. So position your pinata, making sure that the string is centered in a straight line. I mean, it doesn't have to be in a straight line. I mean, it is a pinata. They do go flying, right? So I guess you can do that however you want to do that. Okay, and then that's gonna go on the back like that. Just gonna add some more adhesive to the back. Again, this is adhesive foam. Okay, and we'll go ahead and add this just so that the blue lines up with the blue. Okay, and then we're gonna put this on a card layer. Isn't that adorable? Oh my gosh, I love it. All right, so I have a blueberry card base, A2 size. I have some yellow star paper. This is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. I'm just going to add some glue behind this and add this to my card layer. Next, I just took a piece of twine, tied it in a very small bow, and I'm just going to just put some glue on the back of that and add that right where that string starts on the pinata. The last thing that I'm going to do, I cut using this die, these little stars, and I'm just going to add some glue to the back, and I'm going to add that to the bottom right corner as well as to the top left corner. And that completes my card. I think this is so cute and so colorful. I love it. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Bye-bye.